Um, there's a question for you. It says, in your guys' opinion, how do developers generate ideas for more innovative gameplay mechanics to prevent titles from becoming stale?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, that's just. Well, first off, I just want to say I don't know how people fall asleep in my class. I try. I can talk louder, faster. Tell me what to do. I'm teasing. I seriously, I will set myself on fire. No, but no. I think people get used to my loudness, which is really insane. But no, hi Hanson. Good to see you. Hope you're doing good. No, we had at least. Oh, by the way, sorry. A side note on Zoom. It's been interesting. I've had kids shaving, baking, falling asleep on in their cars, doing all kind. I mean, it's just we've had dogs on there instead of students. They put their dogs on there. It's hilarious. I'm like, hello.
I
Then we have
was
people that,
I was going to the gym during some of your class sessions. I
I
remember
know,
that.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but I said, yeah, but Samit, you were at the gym. I've had people at the gym with the camera on working out now. I've
That's
had
awesome.
people. I had a student shaving the other day. I was like, hey, so and so. He's like, yeah, I'm getting ready. I listened, and again, you know what they said? They go, we listen to you like a podcast. We've had people in their car. I'm like, all over. Do not have an accident because of my fat, pale butt out there making talking to you and saying something. You careen into a ditch. I mean, come on. But no, anyway. But back to the question. Sorry, the question was how to generate ideas and what. But what was the other contextual aspect of it? Because you're generating ideas in
Mhm.
contextual software, or can you say that again? Because that
Yeah.
is that.
So the question was, and I think Chip also has a question. He's actually a viewer at the moment too. He says, "How do developers generate ideas for more innovative gameplay mechanics to prevent titles from becoming stale?" Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, no, well, first off, you see, the thing is, in a lot of the big houses, they know about the technology way before we do or anybody. I mean, if you want a classic example, you look at Star Fox and Nintendo. Okay, Star Fox has, and I literally have a new section on this in my history of games over the summer. Star Fox is an amazing. Oh, sorry, one of my favorites. I won't do the barrel roll. Everybody does it, but I love the and then flying around and the graphics. But Star Fox has been used by Nintendo to literally show off and test each new generation of technology. The most recent one was, between the Wii and the Wii U. In the Wii U, they had a whole new set of, gyros, or gyros if you're hungry. And, they wanted to test it off. So they designed Star Fox and all of the new functions around those gyros and all that balancing stuff because they wanted that to be the example game of what you could do. So Nintendo's like, here's what we have in this new technology. Here's what we've innovated. This is what we believe after testing will get people to get, like that student is asking, or that viewer is asking, this is a new technology, this is a new mechanic, or a new technology that allows new mechanics, which will be the same title, but new options, new features. So we've tested in-house. We think this is where it's going to go. So here's the new software, the new console. I'm sorry, here's the new hardware, here's the new software. Let's put it all together and see what happens. And then if Star Fox, whichever one that was, Star Fox U or whatever they called it. Sorry, the titles all blend together in my head after 800 years. But they want that to inspire other game makers to employ them, and then that runs its course, and then they do it again. I mean, and Nintendo and other companies have been doing it, like when the Virtual Boy came out. I mean, that was one of the first real mass-produced VR experiences. And then there was the '90s craze, with the giant, huge, neck-breaking helmets. And now we had Google Glass. I had students in class with Google Glass, and the other students wanted to punch them. But the point was, and now I've got a student, Devin, one of my TAs and my grad students, who's using Unreal to make a VR game where you're protecting your horde. So it's like you play small. You're fighting against the humans. And so, I mean, the first part is you have to sit down and you have to start generating ideas. And the way to generate ideas is you're not in a vacuum. You want to have a library of experiences, both physical and digital. Okay. So what I mean by that is that you want to have played a bunch of games. That's where playing games comes in. And you're going to want to have experiences. And GDC a couple years ago, and I'm just going to plug them like crazy, they had an entire day, well, not a half a day, I'd say, of people talking about, we get too sequestered in front of our computers. And this one lady, she was from New York, NYU, and she talked about how she makes her students, if they're going to make a game about fencing, she has them take, or sword play, she makes them take a fencing class. If they're going to do a flying game or they're going to try to do something, they need to go paragliding or hang gliding or whatever it is. So you want to have experience yourself, and then you want to try to translate that experience to others, and you want to have a library of games in between. So it starts with, what would I like to play? What would I like to do? What is my reference library of games? What are my personal experiences? And then how can I merge that? And then nobody wants to hear this, but it comes down to hard work. It comes down to having a myriad, an entire spectrum of ideas. If I can give you an example, Richard Garfield, we talked to Larry Ross and I and Peter Atkinson, of Wizards of the Coast fame, of Settlers of Catan fame years ago when we went to Gen Con. And they are great guys. They're amazing guys. And they actually held they held a session with a bunch of our students. And they talked about this stuff, and Peter Atkinson, who I always get his name wrong, God, I hope he forgives me, but he was in charge of Wizards of the Coast, and he met with Richard Garfield. And he told us a story about how Richard Garfield came in to the office and had something like 60, 70 plus games or something like that, crazy number. And then the only games they really liked were Magic the Gathering and this like Indy 500 racing card game. And then they talked, they said, well, let's go with this Magic the Gathering. The kids might like it. They might like it, we'll see what happens. But the only reason he got to the tip of that is that Richard Garfield, makes all these, Battle of Tokyo, Battle of New York, all this stuff he's doing nowadays. He had made this whole library of games, and they didn't suck, but they were all like, you got to have a whole library of games you've made that don't do that well, because out of that mess that will be out of that, and I'm not calling it, out of the manure of your own creation will come a couple of nice sprouts, and you pluck those and you see what happens. So it really comes down to, and that's the first part. Then the second part goes back to what I said. And so I kind of speak in a fractal pattern here, as most people will know, is that then once you have all that done, then you look and you say, okay, what is the upcoming technology? What is being innovated? And right now it's VR. So what can I do in VR that I haven't done before? We have what I call wizard in residence, Chauncey Friend. He developed a system that actually you put on the VR headset and it actually sends out a signal that actually maps the area around you. So when you're in the VR world, you actually see this organic kind of circle that goes around chairs and tables and things. And because, again, he played VR games forever, but he kept bumping into things. So then he decided, okay, I want to play the game, but if I get too close to an item, I want the VR set to flash red, which is what he did like 2 years ago, and that's where it is. So again, it comes down to personal experience, digital experience, what you love, then that big fourth section, which is hard work. Listing ideas, talking to people, writing it out, doing what I did, like doing Mega Man over and over and over again, just piles of stuff, testing it, and then making sure you understand what is coming down the pipeline and what will be cool. But I will caution, I will say this though, the latest and greatest technology is wonderful, but at the same time, there is something to be said about classic technology that is already established, like Shovel Knight or other games, stuff like that, stuff for a DS, God forbid, or Switch or something, or a classic platformer or a classic first-person shooter like GoldenEye or something. There's something to be said about, can we take this format, not reinvent the wheel, but reinvent how we drive on said wheel? You see what I mean? That's the thing too. So I'm all about innovation, but I'm also about a good game designer and developer will try to work with new technologies, but also really work with the classic stuff too and see what they can do, which is why I had you guys do like a card game, dice game. Well, if you had a regular class, it'd be a card game, dice game, board game, and then iterations of it across the board. So, man, those are bad puns. But I hope that answers the question. Did that answer the question? Or did he leave? He's like, nope, I'm out. I'm done.
We'll see what he says. I think Chip had something to add in. He says that he thinks that a lot of progression and innovation comes from recursive relationships where game developers use previous games as inspirations to add their own spin to it and personal experience. And he's also adding retro development is really big in Pokemon community with ROM hacks and whatnot. And he did reply back. He said it's good insight and he appreciates it.
Okay, well, I salute you, sir. Thank you very much for the question. Thank you. Yeah. But yeah, no, and I like what Chip is saying too. There's a reason why I teach video game history, because people need to know where they came from. First off, we need to know our nerd ancestors. We're coming out of the basement. Nerd strong. My speech in class about that. It's not a safe space; it's a sanctuary. We'll yell and scream, but we're all nerds. We'll take care of ourselves. But yeah, no, there is something to be said about games, like you said, like Doom. There is a certain pinnacle of creation that it needs to be studied. There's a reason why certain art forms are repeated, impressionism to expressionism, all the way to Dadaism, and then postmodernism. You go back to the Romanesque, and then classic, and Renaissance. There's a reason why, because again, I have a background in art. There's a reason why certain art forms are classic, but they also transform at the same time. and we add and add, and we have layers of like sedimentary rock where there's layers. They're all valuable, and it's good to study each layer because each layer has an enormous amount of information in there about what was popular and good at the time. And also, this is what I say too: you need to know this stuff. I love the comment about being recursive because it does. It comes down to what is on its way, what is behind, where am I in this? Because I've always said this: is that time is not a line or a circle, but it's a spiral. It literally repeats, but it goes forward over and over and over and over. And I got that from Dinotopia, by the way, just to give full credit. But literally, they measure time in spirals, not a clock or a line, because it repeats and it comes and goes, and you have to be ready. And also, if you want to be a game designer developer, you also have to have this aspect too, and that's a little bit of business savvy. You have to kind of know where you don't want to repeat, you don't want to just jump on the bandwagon, but you kind of want to know whether the audience is. You know, I mean, that's by the way, nice cup. I love that. That is a mug that will satisfy you and defend you at the same time. Literally. And that is the spirit of Grand Theft Auto right there. It's like everything's a weapon. But no, but I mean, sorry, where was I? But I mean, that's just like Pokemon. I've had people my age be like, dang it, they just released Galar and they still have, grass, water, fire. And I'm like, yeah, because my 11-year-old, that's her, Alola, that was her first region. And that's why they do it, because they have to have that classic introduction that has proven effective. It's also effective in terms of gameplay. They don't want to have to reinvent the rock, paper, scissors. I mean, that is what Pokemon was based off of, is rock, paper, scissors. The same way that Guitar Hero is whack-a-mole. You know what I mean? It's the same mechanic, just spiced up. So everybody's like, well, I want to have a steel and a fairy and a dark type. No, my daughter and my son need to be introduced the way I was introduced, and how their kids will be introduced to Pokemon. When Pokemon, I don't know, Quark and temporal gravitational flux comes out in the year 1988, and the 97th region, of Pokemon, Johto 2, I don't know, or Johto 47. But you have to have that kind of repetition, and then they innovate. Then they add new Pokemon. Then they do this, and they add this. They take that. When I was in Sinnoh, you could go down and dig, but now you do this. Then you breathe. Then you dress them up. Then you do blah blah blah. My only problem, my real problem, and I got to say this real quick, and is the other thing that we face though with all of this stuff. The one thing that we're not doing really as game designers, developers, with game mortality is something we're not talking enough about. The fact that there are so many hundreds, if not thousands, of games that we can't play anymore because they've not been modded forward. They've not been ported to the next version. All that controversy with Sony and Xbox. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. And now everybody's super happy because of that. I mean, I'll give you an example. Star Wars Galaxies was one of the best simulation ecological games I've ever played. It was difficult. It was challenging. It really made you think about how to balance an ecosystem with all these Star Wars creatures. And they were Star Wars creatures made by Tara Whitlatch. She's amazing. She redesigned all the stuff, for the prequels and all the stuff. But the problem is, I wanted to show it to my class. It is not on Steam that I have found. Samir might be checking that, but I've looked. It's not on Steam. So we literally had to get the tech staff. I went to Kim Mellick and I said, Kim, God bless. She just retired. God bless her. She's a digital goddess. And I said, I need to run this game. She had to find an old computer at like the surplus store and then put Windows 95 on it to run the game so I could show it in class. Because all I had was a strategy guide and some posters. But then when they played the game, kids were like, this is amazing. I love this. Wow. We have a Rancor versus a Dianoga versus a Minoc versus, some of the other creatures they've got going on, and why don't we have this? I'm like, well, we didn't port it forward. It's crazy to me that we put thousands of human hours into something and then we lose it. It'd be like the Mona Lisa. And I'm sorry if you have to hear this stuff repeated. You probably heard me say this in class, right? Okay, but I'm saying it for your audience. Okay. I mean, like the Mona Lisa, we don't go, hey, she's 1,000 years old now. We got to get rid of her. We don't go to cavemen and go, that's too old, slam. But games are like, who cares? Like, no. Please, let's get this stuff ported forward, So I just had to add that because to me it all is one and the same. We're not going to be able to be recursive if we can't play those games. And have you seen that article? Did you see that famous article where the dad is making his son play games in the order that they came out? So when this kid was like 4 or 5, he started him on Atari, and then he's on NES, and now he's up to like GameCube or whatever. Have you seen that? There's an article.
I think I've seen it, but I can't recall it.
The dad is making him live video game history as he lived it, and the kid is developing this huge respect, and the kid's excited. Like, ooh, I get to go from 16-bit to 32-bit. We all take it for granted nowadays. Yeah, no, that recursiveness needs to be focused in on, but it also needs to be doubled down with an attitude of we will save these games. We will find a way to port them forward. And I don't want it done illegally. I don't want people, having to illegally, mod or adjust or steal or do stuff. We as a community of game designers and developers need to take games and keep them moving forward. So I know they're doing a little bit better now, but there's still hundreds of games that are lost.
Mm-hmm.
I run the game library at school. There's hundreds of games we can't play because the system's down, NES isn't working, things like that. And there's nothing on Steam. So, and then I worry about Steam too, because if Steam goes down,
yeah,
I don't have
I
this.
agree. That also brings up the topic recently. I'm pretty sure Samir and Professor Powers, you've also heard about the PlayStation Store on Vita and PS3 going down, and how it's become a big issue because the PlayStation studio head, I think his name is Jim Ryan, he says he doesn't understand why people want to go back and play old games. And it was like a statement he said, and I was like, that's a huge disconnect from Sony and the audience that they cater to. Sony's known to bring like amazing first party, even third party, and amazing consoles to people around the world. And right now, like there's like this like massive disconnect because they're going to be shutting down the PlayStation Store, which means most people that have bought digital products lost the chance to play those games that have made the PlayStation 3, the Vita, I think it's even the PSP so good. And we have a couple of comments